Hockey Nation fans, this is a quick update for Detroit Red Wings fans. There was an interesting announcement. Yes, I have a black eye. If you didn't see it on the last broadcast, just an accident, not a hockey fight. Go away. It doesn't even hurt. Thank you for checking this out because we have an interesting signing by the Detroit Red Wings. Unfortunately, it's not Dylan Larkin. It's not Tyler Bertuzzi, but I've been saying on our broadcast of how well this player's been playing, and he completes a deal that was another robbing of the St. Louis Blues of a really good player that we didn't know about, buried in their system. The Detroit Red Wings have announced that they have signed Jake Walman to a 3-year contract extension for $10.2 million. This is, I think he was due to be an unrestricted free agent. He's got 10 points. I think the biggest thing for this is paired with Ben Sherratt, Mortiz Seider, who was, so terrific last year, really, really struggled early on. Splitting them up and moving Walman to his left wing has been absolutely instrumental in changing the course of, his season. And Mortiz Seider should be such a good player, and he is. So we just take a quick look. You can see that this contract is for 3 years, $10.2 million, due to be unrestricted free agent, Jake Walman, left defenseman from Toronto, Ontario. I didn't realize he's 27, so he's a 1996 birth year. This is the same draft year, I believe, then as Dylan Larkin. So we would like to see Dylan Larkin signed, and that's, you would think, is going to happen sooner or later. I don't know if you're surprised by this, but you can see that he has a base salary of 3.5, 3.4, and 3.3 million, which is interesting because it declines. So I'm not sure the significance of that. Total value of the contract, $10.2 million. He has been very, very solid for the Detroit Red Wings. He has absolutely solidified that. And I think what's important about this is he is the second or the third piece to the trade of Nick Leddy. I know. That was a pretty rough game last night. I got hit right through the screen, apparently brand new. Does Boston go after anyone else? I'm not sure if they do that. That is a good question. I mean, there seems to be a bit of an arms race. The question is, where's Patrick Kane end up? I'm not sure if Boston gets another piece here. I mean, they've got a couple of pieces. Hi, Jose. How are you? And yeah, as Brand New said, the game last night, and there will be another game tonight between Detroit and Ottawa, was pretty rough. It was so rough, I apparently got a black eye, but that's not what happened. It was strictly a lot of rain in LA. I slipped and banged my face off of flower garden based, built out of bricks. So anyways, do I think that Boston goes after anyone else? That is a good question. So just to wrap this up here, you can see that, Jake Walman had some previous experience playing, not a handful of games. I guess he had 57 career games up until coming to Detroit. He was a part of the trade that saw Nick Leddy and Luke Witkowski go to St. Louis. And then coming back as part of that trade was Oskar Sundqvist, who's also been very good, a second-round draft pick, which will come up in the 2023 draft, and Jake Walman. So now they've signed the two pieces, I believe. I'm pretty sure Oskar Sundqvist is he signed, locked up? That's a good question. We should probably just double-check that and make sure. But he's been such a good part of Detroit and kind of a third-line role for them, bringing a different dimension. Yeah, he is unrestricted, so would not be surprised to see him also re-sign. So Oskar Sundqvist not locked up for next year. Will he be? He currently has a cap hit of 2.75. Walman goes from making 1.05 to 3.4, 3.4, 3.4, but we're actually seeing in the details of this that it's actually 3.5, 3.4, and 3.3. So I don't know what the significance of that is. It averages out to 3.4 million per year. So I guess that's the cap hit, but not the actual contract amount. Rasmussen Sandin goes to. Wait, what? Another deal. Let's see what this is. I didn't see this. Let's talk about this. Rasmus Sandin going to Washington. That's interesting. Is that confirmed? Rasmus Sandin to Washington. What the heck are they getting back? Eric Gustafson and a first-round pick? What? Does this make any sense to you guys? This seems like a terrible deal to me. Would you not rather have a younger player in Rasmus Sandin? I mean, Gustafsson is not what Toronto needs. What is their obsession with this kind of defenseman? I don't get it. 10-game schedule. There are a lot of games, including Detroit. Again, rematch against Ottawa. Didn't turn out so great last night. 6-2 win for Ottawa. Magnus Hellberg facing a lot of shots. I think he faced 35 shots last night. Live special, correct, because of the signing of Jake Walman. Toronto making that deal. What do you think of the Toronto deal? First of all, on Walman, he has been very, very good for Detroit. He is very difficult to play against defensively. He doesn't make any mistakes. He makes really smart decisions with the puck. And he's got a little bit of offense. He's got a good shot from the point, and he's able to walk the blue line offensively and keep pucks in. Like, he's been a surprise, very good player for them, better than Ben Sherratt. And he turned around, I think, the season for Mortiz Seider. So I think that's been really good. So Schenn has gone to Toronto. That's part of the Rasmus Sandin or Sandin. I think this is a silly move to me. I don't get this. Has Sandin been that unreliable? So they basically, oh my goodness, I don't get that. Let's look at that. All right, so let's just switch gears here for a second. So we have Luke Schenn confirmed to Toronto. Yeah. So an original Toronto Maple Leaf draft pick, Luke Schenn, goes back to Toronto. He was kind of drummed out of Toronto for not being the second coming of, the greatest defenseman ever. He was, physically mature at a young age, but he's really a really good 5'6" defenseman. He's won a cup with Tampa Bay. He's a hard-nosed player. I think he leads the NHL maybe in shots and hits, if I'm not mistaken, or shots blocked and hits. Is that what I think he's got something to do with it. He's definitely got hits. So is this complete? It looks like it might be complete. So maybe, I don't know, they get Gustafsson. Wow, what is with all these here? Who is coming back? I'm so confused. This is a flurry of deals here. You guys are up on this a little bit more than me. I wasn't following Toronto Maple Leafs news. So let's take a look. So first of all, Pierre Engvall is now a New York Islander. That's interesting. Is this trade confirmed? Where are you guys seeing this? Is it on Twitter? So this is a three-way deal as part of this to get Schenn. Pierre Engvall appears headed to the New York Islanders, coming after they sent Rasmus Sandin to Washington. So they got Sandin, they got Gustafsson. Now, there was a draft pick that went around this, and it sounds like the deal for Patrick Kane is going to go through to the New York Rangers. So it's interesting. So part of Pierre Engvall appears to be, man, I'm so confused by this. Is this really good? So is this deal done? Okay, I don't know if you guys want to post in what the deal is, but it looks like that is done as well. Who is going back the other way? So they got Tarasenko and Kane. I'm surprised they didn't grab a defenseman. Let's see what the Patrick Kane deal is. That confirmed on Twitter? I mean, this does not appear to be confirmed, but he has been sat out. In return, they send a second-round pick, which carries a conditions to improve, and a fourth-round pick. And that's it? What the hell? Chicago will also retain half of the $10.5 million. And then the Coyotes get the other part. Oh, my God, what is going on here? So this is a three-way bump deal with Arizona to make it work. But they only get a second and fourth, as Coach and Enertap had predicted. This could win the Stanley Cup for the New York Rangers. I mean, it's not confirmed, but this sounds like it's a done deal. So what is Arizona getting out of this? They must be getting something. So there are only 2 draft picks going back to Chicago, a second and a fourth. I mean, I was saying you would want to get Offman, like by taking Patrick Kane and putting him with Artemi Panarin, like, you got a guy that's won 3 Stanley Cups. The last time these 2 guys played together, Chicago had 109 points and have not made the playoffs since. We saw how Patrick Kane was with Alex DeBrincat. Like, this is an insane deal. So it's less Third round is Arizona's return. Okay, so there's basically a second, a third, and a fourth going around the horn. Man, this seems so cheap to me. I just can't understand it. To not get a defined prospect like Othman, or even like they were talking about the defenseman Zach Jones. Like New York Rangers, this just made them the Kings, didn't it? Like who's going to be better than the Rangers at this point? They were already really, really good. I mean, so now you've got like an insane top six. I don't know if they're showing this lineup yet. Yeah, no leverage, no choice, because he basically called his shot, right? He said where he wanted to go. So that's probably part of the problem. So he really only helped out the New York Rangers, but I think he helped out the Blackhawks by staying there so long. I mean, you know, he toughed it out. The last 5 years have been pretty rough, including all the craziness last year with, you know, all the scandal that was going on. So, I mean, whatever, that's fine. Let him call his shot. So the question seems to be clear to me. It'll be Trocheck, Panarin, and Kane. I don't think they'll break up this third line. So Barclay Goodrow would be a candidate to go down here is my assumption. And he'll flex up into the lineup as needed if Lafreniere or Kakko or Scheidel don't do well. But they seem to play well together. Kreider, Tarasenko, and Zibanejad, I would not count on that being a lock. Who are we missing? You're missing Ryan Lindgren. So, you know, do they grab a defenseman out of this? I'm not sure. They had already acquired Ben Harper. Whew, that is a really, really, really good lineup. You got Kreider. I would think that Zibanejad would be a better centerman for Panarin and for Kane. He's a little bit bigger and defensively oriented and a really high-octane offensive player. If it was me as the coach, I would put Kreider and Tarasenko with Trocheck then, which I think would work out plenty fine. And, of course, you can always switch it back if it doesn't. And the third line seems to be pretty set, and they've been playing pretty well. So that is huge news. And then, you know, we have this. Let's see if the Toronto Maple Leafs deal is reflected in their lineup yet. So Pierre Engvall is now a New York Islander, so we're seeing that, but he's still showing up on the Toronto roster. So coming back, this means we know that Jake Muzzin is out. They already acquired Jake McCabe, and they'll get Gustafsson, who frankly I don't think is that great of a defenseman. Do you think Gustafsson is an upgrade over Sandin? Has Sandin been that bad this year? Because Gustafsson to me has had some offense. Yeah, and the 3 games for spitting makes sense. I thought it'd be 3 to 5, so this does not surprise me. So this is another 3-way deal. Is that what this is? To get Luke Schenn. So you're going to add Luke Schenn, which I think is probably helpful, Toronto. I really wonder how well he keeps up with the speed in Toronto, but maybe he's exactly what they need. He's tough, and he blocks shots, and he hits. So those are all good things, and they probably are missing that kind of sandpaper. Gustafsson gives them maybe more offense, a defined offense that can help the power play. I don't love Gustafsson. And then they have, you know, they have Noah Asiari, who I think that was a really good pickup, and Sam Lafferty they already acquired. So maybe they deemed Engvall expendable. It definitely gives them a lot of depth in here. Will it amount to anything, or will they be a first-round exit? Because if you look at the moves, if they face Tampa Bay in the first round or they face Boston, can they beat either of those teams? And the Rangers are definitely improved, and that's going to be a tough. I don't think they're going to face them, but I would think they're going to face Tampa. I don't know if they'll face Boston. We'd have to look at it, but you know, Toronto's going to try and make a crack at this, which makes sense. They already got Ryan O'Reilly. They've made a lot of moves here. They're not messing around. I mean, you can't really. This is like, you know, maybe the last shot at it for this management team. So you might as well go all in. And they have done it without dismantling any of their top 4 forwards. They added O'Reilly, which is a big, big benefit. Improves them at center. Moving Tavares to the wing, shockingly, has been a boon. And now the question is, I like the Asiari move. He's a more physical player. Lafferty probably, you know, gives them some punch. I don't know. Is he a physical player? I mean, I never really thought of him as a physical player. Is he? I'm not sure about that. But then they have on defense, they'll basically swap out Rasmus Sandin. I keep saying Sundin, not Matt Sundin. And they will swap in Luke Schenn and Gustafsson. Interesting. Lots of interesting moves here. And when the Patrick Kane deal is confirmed, that will be interesting. This one, I guess, is not surprising. Marcus Johansson, previously on the Minnesota Wild, goes back to the Minnesota Wild for a 3rd-round pick. it seems like they're just unloading and kind of calling it a day in Washington, which I guess shouldn't surprise us at this point. Although Ovi came back, they were in a playoff spot up to that point. So I don't know what happened. Like I think they're saying, hey, we have no John Carlson for the rest of the year, maybe. And we ain't winning anything without John Carlson. We don't think Kemper is what we hoped he would be. They've already given up on. I mean, you don't like Sandin and Engvall? I thought they were pretty good, but I'm trying to think of, are these upgrades? Maybe for the short term, they are upgrades. I mean, Engvall's a big guy. He's a little bit plodding, but he can score a little bit. So what they get back, they give more ice time to Asiari. They give more ice time to Sam Lafferty, who they brought in. So Engvall's probably expendable at that point. They've already added Ryan O'Reilly, which has really strengthened the top six. Moving John Tavares to the wing seems to be a really good solution. You know Tavares can play center. So they're better there. That probably matches up very well against even the New York Rangers. Are they? And I think this is the question, right? Yeah, he played definitely not a tough player. And Sandin, you're right. I get, and it's funny how he has been surpassed by Timothy Liljegren. Luke Shen, it'll be interesting to see if the speed's a problem, but he's a veteran. He's tough. He does a lot of the gritty things that are missing, so that probably helps them. Is Gustafsson any less mistake prone than Sandin? But he probably brings more offense, right? He's shown that he can score still. So that's probably part of it. So overall, I think, if you're the general manager, you probably are pretty happy with these moves, preparing you for the playoffs, at least give you a better shot. Now, Luke will be the seventh D-man. Yeah, probably 6'7", right? I don't know. He might, yeah. And I think the reality is if you look at the Tampa Bay model, they're going to load up on as many NHL defensemen as they can. So weren't they talks to bring Shen in? I thought they were going to bring Shen in, but I guess that didn't happen. So now they kind of that's a piece that gets taken away, but not, they're looking at depth moves, right? In Tampa, and I think that's what Toronto's like. How do we strengthen the bottom half of our lineup? How do we make ourselves a little bit gritty? Because the third line in Tampa is big and they can score. So they've probably upgraded their third line in Toronto through all of this. And worst case, you could go 1, 2, 3 with Matthews, Ryan O'Reilly, and Tavares. Not that you would want to do that, but you could. And that would be a really, really tough scenario for a lot of teams. You could give extra ice to both Tavares, to all three of those guys. You could roll 3 centers, and you could roll 3 lines in Toronto, really. But I think, even if you rolled those other wingers, you could roll 3 centers and 4 groups of wingers around them and not worry about it. But Asiari is a real, good piece to this puzzle too. So Toronto's interesting. He can hit. Asiari is a tough player. Is there any word on Murray being traded? Well, that is tough. Do they pick up another goalie here? And that would make sense if you're a Toronto fan. I could see where you would want another goalie. You've got Kallgren and you've got Wall, but I don't think either of those is a solution. So to your point, do they pick up another goalie, and who would that goalie be? And, I don't know, they'd have to be really creative. Like, what goalies are going to be available here? Does John Gibson finally shake loose? Would he even go to Toronto? Didn't he? Yeah. So then this is the previously, well, that would be crazy because, and that would actually be very effective, right? Like Reimer as a backup, he's up and down like a yo-yo, but he can be an effective goalie. Like I think we've seen in stretches in his career, he can steal games and then he can blow games. But I think, that would be maybe a good solution because he's not a rebound reflex goalie like Peter Mrazek was last year. He's more solid, can stop rebounds, control them. And so that would be a good fit with Toronto, I think, if Reimer went in there. And if they went, and that's another ex-Toronto Maple Leaf who was, left, and he actually developed in Toronto pretty well and surprised people and then left. He's not like a number 1, but man, he would be a real good number 2 and give them some insurance going into the playoffs. So that would be an excellent example of a move that they would make. And RJ, thank you again. We did see this deal to bring Marcus Johansson back to Minnesota for a 3rd-round draft pick from Washington. He previously played in Minnesota. So this is a guy that they trust on their third line. He's pretty good defensively. His offense is like hit and miss. But this is, he's quick and he doesn't hurt anybody and they know him and he knows the system. So that's probably a smart move. I'm not sure. Man, A lot of moves, but I think the big one's still to drop to be confirmed, but it sounds like it's a done deal, will be the Patrick Kane deal. What did you think of Puya Harvey being traded to the Hurricanes? All right, so guys, I'm going to wrap this up because I was meant to do a quick update on you, and I have another thing I have to do, but I will check back in on updates on this, and I look forward to seeing a confirmation of the Patrick Kane deal and any other deals that go down before Friday.